About 71% of the Earth's surface is water covered, and the oceans hold about 96.5% of all Earth's water. The human body is made up of between 50 and 75% of water. This is Living in Liquid, and I'm Jamie Mitchell.
All right, today we're diving deep, literally, with our guest, Vitomir Maričić. I hope I got that right, Vitomir. But Vitomir is a world champion freediver, ocean explorer, one of the leading figures in underwater sports and innovations. As a multiple national and world record holder, he's spent his life pushing the limits of human potential beneath the surface. But his work doesn't stop there. From advancing marine conservation efforts to developing cutting-edge technologies for underwater exploration, Vitomir combines athletic mastery with a visionary approach to the future of the ocean. Get ready for an inspiring conversation about breath, balance, and the beauty of the deep blue. So, welcome, mate, and thanks for making this happen all the way down in Mexico.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I was putting a bit of pressure with that introduction.
No, it's all good. I'm really honestly, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Obviously, just seeing that the new world record that you achieved, and also with my background in big wave surfing and a lot of the people that will be listening, and with some of the breath stuff that we do, I find it fascinating to to watch you guys go through and put your body through. But before we get to that, you're born in Croatia, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. And what's I have a lot of friends that were professional kayakers that went to the Olympics, and so I know there's beautiful bodies of water in Croatia. But what was it like growing up in Croatia? Were you close to the Mediterranean? Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, yeah, I was growing up on the Med basically all the time. I was born in a coastal city, a port city, but my families are from the islands that are just in front of the city. So every time I spent on the islands exploring the ocean, the beaches, anything water connected was very accessible and cheap. So that's where I was whenever I had the chance.
So there's a bunch of islands like off the coast of Croatia that are Croatian owned sort of islands. Is that yeah?
Yeah, there's like more than 1,000 islands.
Wow.
There's like a lot of islands in the Adriatic Sea, which is part of the Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah.
In front of my cities, the two most obvious ones are the ones where I spent my childhood mostly when I had like summer breaks at school and stuff.
And it's just like a boat ride, or is it a long distance? Like how far off the coast are the islands?
So one of them is like connected with a bridge, so it's like a one
Oh,
hour ride to my village, and one of them is like drive and then a short ferry ride. But I mean, you could my town is a port town, so there's sea and beaches there. It's just that I didn't visit them so much when I was a kid. Later on, when I was older, I did use the sea around the city a lot. And actually, when I started freediving, I was spending a lot of times around the city and the coastal area around the city because it was actually pretty good to train at that point in my career.
and so how did a young kid get into the free diving? Like, were your parents like into the water? Was it friends? How did you get to the point of deciding that you wanted to start exploring under the water?
Well, my my father was like spearfishing, and he was like pretty skilled with diving, with breath hold diving. However, he didn't really practice it when I was born, and but immediately when I learned how to swim at the age of 3, I realized that it's much more interesting if you have something on and we're looking underwater, and then I started moving underwater, and I think everything in my life has always been like pushing my limits, and I saw everything as a challenge, everything I liked. So slowly I started to test myself. Can I go longer? Can I go deeper? And so on. However, the sport was very underdeveloped, and the only thing I could sometimes see was like individual record attempts in the 90s on TV. And watching those, I was kind of daydreaming that one day that could be me. But it was nothing very serious. I absolutely didn't see it realistic. It was very abstract, like someone wanting to be an astronaut. And it's like, yeah, sure, why not be an astronaut? But probably it's going to be something else. But then uh, it turned out that sport was the biggest part of my life always. And by pure chance, at some point in my life, due to an accident, actually, circumstances got to that I became a competitive freediver. Uh, Immediately, it was very successful. Um, I kind of expected that because I was always following results, and I knew what my result would approximately be because just out of pleasure, sometimes I would do some dives for my own personal satisfaction or to warm up for a swimming session or something like that. So I knew that I could probably be pretty good, but unless you challenge yourself truly on a game, you don't know. So I started diving, and then it quickly became my job, and I started researching different phenomenons that happen with free diving because as the sport was underdeveloped, so was our knowledge about how to train and what happens, how to progress, what's safe, what's not safe. So there was a lot of unanswered questions. I started teaching, I started researching, I started writing about it and competing and training others to compete, pushing limits. Yeah, here we are now.
What age was that when is there anyone in your town? Is there like mentors or people that are doing that? Like, how how do you get to the point of like from, because as a kid for me too, like I swam from a young age at 5. I had really bad asthma as a kid, but I always liked being under the water as well. And I could always like hold my breath the length of the Olympic sized swimming pool. And so I always, as kids, you're always trying to test yourself as well. But there's definitely a difference between doing that to going to that next level of like, I want to do this competitively and then what's that avenue, like is there, so I guess is there some guy that's in your town that's taking you out to dive and show you how to do it, or is it just completely your own sort of doing it yourself, basically?
It was mostly doing it myself. Later, I was meeting people, exchanging experiences, but it was mostly doing it myself all the time. It wasn't really developed. Like you say, you know that you could like go through a distance of a Olympic size pool that's 50 meters. So I did the same at some point. I came to the pool and I was like, I wonder if I could, come to the end. Then I came to the end and I was like, I wonder if I could come 2 times, like there and back. Then I went there and back. And then I went there and back and a little bit more. And it was mostly like that. And then I started thinking about how different ways of breathing will affect my performance underwater, how I could store more air, how I could equalize more efficiency. And I was kind of thinking about all these things myself. And then later, when I realized there's a whole teaching system about it and everything, I saw that they're also using and implementing a lot of these things that I was just intuitively researching as a kid and exploring around them to help my performance. So yeah, mostly it was self-taught. And then when I started professionally, also there was no one in my city, and I didn't have a coach. I never had a coach. In fact, in order to keep my motivation, I started coaching others, like for safety, for motivation, for competition, and that helped me a lot. I like to have a competitive environment. I like to be pushed. I like to chase someone. Um, yeah, that's like the essence of sports. So I was always in love with all kinds of sports.
Yeah, seems like you're like a lot of athletes I speak to from a young age. You just know that you're a competitive person. You want to, necessarily you want to win. You want to push yourself. You want to be the best, and it's sort of like that drive that takes a lot of drive in a kid to be the only one doing something and still want to have the knowledge to go and do that. Whereas, most times if you're playing soccer, you can go to the soccer club and join up, or to the swimming club, or whatever it may be. But, to have that mindset at a young age obviously has served you well, in the pursuits that you have, done recently.
For sure, it was always like a let's say like a passion project on the side. I was training other sports always, but then whenever I had the chance, I would do a little bit of diving as well for like at least 5 minutes for my own personal satisfaction. So until 9 years ago, when I started doing it like seriously, professionally, it was always a passion project. Nothing more than that. I was busy with other sports as well.
What was it like that initial when you're like trying to learn? Like I'm guessing I mean, it must be super dangerous to like be by yourself and trying to work this thing out, right? Like we all know that shallow water blackout and there's all these other different things that can happen. But what was that like? Like trying to come up with your own systems of breathing and understanding like what your body can go through and push through, because at that stage you probably don't know how far you can push yourself, but you're trying to get there. That must be like sort of an interesting place to be in.
I mean, yeah, when I was a kid, to be honest, I had no idea about those risks. I had a feeling that water is my safe place and that nothing bad can happen to me in the water. Like whatever I did, everything was always okay. On the other side, when I was on land, I would constantly break something, like training all those sports, competing and really pushing myself. I had so many fractures, like of every bone in my body, I guess. And water was always my safe spot. I never broken anything there, and I never had actually bad experiences like blackouts until I became like pro.
Mm.
So I guess I was either very intuitive and introspective about things subconsciously, not to push too much, or I was just very lucky. Um, because yeah, I never had any serious incidents when I was younger. But then when I started training as a pro, then I was kind of aware of potential risks, and I was trying to always find some company to keep an eye on me and to kind of motivate me also to push. It didn't work perfectly because it's just not easy training anything yourself. I've tried several sports, and it's always much harder when you're on your own. So yeah, I started like motivating people around me that I scouted as talents, and I tried to make them as good as they can be. And they actually pushed me, and they helped me to come to where I am. They also like became really top level. Now in my club we have 4 or 5 record holders or champions, so it's probably one of the most successful clubs in the world, probably the most successful one. And one of my first students is now the deepest man in the world. Yeah, if it weren't for him, that's Petar Kolar. I would probably finish my career a long time ago. But since he became so good, it motivated me and inspired me to push myself even more and to be there for him, because we understand now that we need each other in order to stay to progress.
So for the people that don't understand, and myself included, like there seems to be a lot of different disciplines in the freediving world, right? Like how deep you can go. There's with fins, without fins. I mean, there's all these different. Can you go through the different varieties of what you do, and then and what's your specialty as well?
So we can roughly divide it into two very different segments, freediving as a sport. So one segment is pool freediving and one segment is depth. So open water, ocean, that's one segment, and one is the pool. In the pool, we have 3 disciplines for distance, which is with bifins, with a monofin, and without fins. And there is one discipline for time, which is static. You're just on the surface of the water, holding your breath. And in depth, all disciplines are for the deepest dive. So you always go for depth, and the result is in meters. So you will go with bifins, with monofin, or without fins. And there's a 4th discipline, which is free immersion, where you're pulling on the rope. Normally,
Yep.
the rope is there just for safety and just for orientation. But in free immersion discipline, you can actually pull on the rope to go down, and you pull on the rope to go back up. All competitive disciplines in depth are constant weight. This means that whatever weight you're carrying, you need to bring back up, because there's other non-competitive disciplines where you can like go down on a sled or like super heavy, but then you can release those weights and come back light, or even come back with balloons or any other means of, let's say, transport. This is variable weight or no limit. But these are not competitive disciplines. They are not like sanctioned in a way that we imagine in sports. So only the constant weight ones are basically sport disciplines.
And what can you walk me through the records of like the obviously we got the Olympic sized pools, 50 meters, most people know that. So what are the distances underwater, the records for the no fins, mono fins, and the
Let me think. I'm not sure I will know all of them. I don't have a very clear specialty. I have some favorites, but generally I'm known to compete in everything, and I'm pretty good at everything.
yeah.
I have an overall #1 ranking in IDA for all disciplines combined in history, so I'm pretty good at all of them. I'll probably remember my personal bests, but I'll try to remember also the world's. So in the pool, let's say in static is around 11 minutes 30 seconds is maximum breath hold that someone has achieved. And then for distance, it's around 245 without fins.
Wow. That's
And
245, basically 5 full laps of the Olympic sized pool.
yeah, and then with bifins is around 300, and I think around 320 is with monofin.
Okay.
And then in depth, we are looking at without fins, it's 103 meters down and up. And then bifins is around 126, I think. Monofin 136, and a free immersion 135.
Wow. What I mean, I guess when I'm thinking out loud, like what how is the training different? You know, obviously the deep diving, it's all about equalization and I guess all your organs start to squeeze, right, and become like super small and pressurized. Like, is there a different style of training for the people that are going for depth compared to say someone that's just trying to do a static and or do like the go for distance?
Yeah, for sure. Let's say the only organ that actually changes dramatically in depth is the lungs. And like passively, some other things change, but the lungs is the only thing that's kind of filled with air, so the pressure will affect it. Nothing else will be really affected by pressure because it's not gas. Only gases get affected. And this is important to practice, and for this you need depth exposure. And also the gases will dissolve in blood differently. So from a physiological perspective, you need to be in depth in order to understand how to be more resistant to narcosis, to CO2, to other things that happen, how to keep your focus, and how to mentally approach depth. That's like a very interesting game. Equalization obviously is a skill that's also necessary, but it's kind of one of the skills once you learn it, it works. Most of the people are struggling with that, but I think it's just because the sport is relatively small, and it is very small actually and new. So I don't think in the future that's going to be happening a lot. It's like, in surfing in the very beginnings, probably there was people who had trouble standing up on the board, but now that's like, if you cannot stand up, why are you even here? So now the finesse is much more important. Pool, we can see pool as kind of the basis for depth performance, because you need all those elements. You need the resistance to hypoxia. You need to tolerate CO2. You need to keep technique under stress and pressure. You need long dive times. You need all that you can perfect in the pool. And then when you bring it to the open water, then you need to apply these micromotorics of equalization, body positioning, reading the currents, understanding the natural environment a little bit more. Training will be quite different because of that. And in the future, already now we see some differences, but in the future it's going to be even more exaggerated as people will specialize for certain disciplines. So for example, someone who is built for no fins is going to look differently. Already now for static, people are usually very skinny because their basal metabolism is much lower. So it's easier for them to just be perfectly still and not use a lot of energy. I think in the future we will see that we will start profiling which body types are better
Mm,
for which discipline, and generally what is a good body type for freediving. Currently, being a very small sport, we have a large variety of champions. There's like one guy's short, one guy's tall, one guy has huge lungs, one guy has small lungs. So currently we don't have a proper model value, but we kind of see in which direction this is going to go.
yeah. What about so like genetics, right? Like obviously some people are genetically gifted in certain sports. Like what like for example for yourself, you're a world record holder. Like do you do you guys get tested like as in like you have especially large like lungs and stuff like that, or is it just
I do get tested a lot because I work with the research center, and then everything I wanted to explore, I first tested on myself. And yeah, because I have good results, then others also test me a lot. Um, I don't see myself as being particularly like super talent in any of the fields, but I'm pretty good in everything that's needed. Um, the mental aspect is really important in freediving.
yeah,
I think on the count of being involved in sports all my life. So there's like 35 years of experience in competing in different sports on different levels. I think I'm pretty good with that mental aspect. I don't have a pressure of competing, and I know how to perform and give it my best. So that's really important in every sport. Um, Other things like I do have quite bigger lungs than average, but not insanely big lungs. So it's not like a mega talent. There's divers that have much bigger lungs than me. I'm not extremely tall. I think height will be an important factor. Also, arm span. I have a big arm span, but not extremely big. One of the things where I have a bigger spleen, but not super big again. Some divers have much bigger spleen. The spleen is important because it stores a lot of blood. My blood is extremely rich and thick, so I can carry a lot of oxygen in my blood. That's one of my, let's say, strong points.
yeah.
And probably being very resistant to stress and suffering. I can also operate under very, very low saturation values. Like most people would lose their consciousness. I'm still pretty fine with those values. So those are kind of my strong sides.
Yeah, I was about to say there must be, you know, when I turn up to certain sporting events, there's like five or six guys or girls that basically are the same ability, right? Anyone could win on any given day, but how they deal with it mentally and are able to deal with the pain, the discomfort, and all that stuff generally will be who, you know, gets across the line on that day. And I'm guessing that, you know, with the limited breath hold stuff that I've done and with the big wave stuff, you know, it's being up for us being able to stay calm is key. And I think just understanding, you know, the CO2 tolerance and stuff for us, we have so much to learn, but for you guys, I can't even imagine what it's like when you're like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes into something like that, how to just switch your mind off and but not, I guess, not float off into a place where you can't come back from. How do you deal with that? Is that just from training and constantly doing it and pushing yourself so hard that you start to just get comfortable with being uncomfortable?
Yeah, to a certain extent, for sure. It's like someone running a marathon. It's not comfortable to run a marathon, like let's be honest. But people who do it all the time, they find some dynamic meditation in that process. So for them, it becomes a sort of a comfort zone. And then within that, they can push even more. Um, I think it's the same. You just you learn the tools to operate with your body with this specific skill. Just like with surfing, you learn to like navigate smaller waves, then bigger waves, then big waves, and then a certain like 2-3 meter waves for you are probably pure fun. You know exactly how to ride them. You know how to land. It's not dangerous for you. While if a beginner comes there, he cannot even swim out with those waves. Um, I think it's kind of the same, but also it's important to note that, let's say, when you get wiped out on a surfboard and then you need to like hold your breath while you're tumbling inside, it's a completely different mindset and story than when me or another freediver is preparing for a static performance. That's a very, very different ballgame. And for me personally, I would also, if I get wiped out, I mean, 2-3 minutes for sure, maybe more, but absolutely not 5-6 minutes of comfortable breath hold or something like that. It doesn't happen. And if I had to do that, I would train much differently. I mean, I'm very skilled at what I do, so I wouldn't need much training to apply that to surfing. But when I do trainings for surfers, for example, then their training is much different than what I do with freedivers. They have a different preparation period, and they will enter the game with a much different baseline than a surfer who is already hyped up and full of CO2 and has an oxygen depth and is probably out of breath already when he gets wiped out. So
Yeah.
for him, the training approach would be quite different than for a freediver. But
Yeah,
in the
no,
end, everyone will, as you learn, as you progress, everyone will learn to get comfortable in that uncomfortable zone, and the margin of comfort will just grow.
yeah. No, for like, for example, this is great. Obviously, I'm going to have a lot of surfers watch this podcast, but, like in realistic terms, even at, surfing the biggest waves in the world, a 40-second hold down is a really long hold down. Like it doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're under that water getting thrashed around, and, the problem is that we're at a high sense of like anxiety anyway, and the heart rate's already beating. You start paddling for this wave and you happen to poke the nose, wipe out. You hit the wave so hard that you lose the oxygen. Then you're going under without any, like without a breath. You're nearly negative breath holding, right? So it's very different. Than I can. I can do like around about a 5 minute static breath held in the pool, but for me, I'm like, I really only need to be able to hold my breath for 40 seconds, but under really serious duress, right? So the way that I would train myself in the pool is like, I'm trying to already be under stress by swimming with no breath and then going under and holding and learning that CO2 tolerance. So what would you say, like with your experience for guys like me and that are surfing really big waves, that can kill you, and we really need to just like realistically like a 45 to 50-second hold down, maybe a 2 wave hold down. It's like a long time, but those 50 seconds, like at the end of those 50 seconds, you feel like the convulsions are coming on. You are like feels like you're at the limit. You know what I mean? What would be the best way for us to? Is there a way for us to like on land to do certain exercises that will allow us to just naturally have a better breath hold? Is it doing CO2 tables on the land to be comfortable with that CO2 tolerance? Like what in a small roundabout way, what would be the best bang for our buck, like with training like that?
And there is a really large variety of things, and I think the wider you go, the better you will perform in the end, because then the pinnacle will go higher. But let's say first, absolutely necessary to start understanding your body so that you can get comfortable with the discomfort, like we talked about before. For example, when you said like when you are like at the 40 seconds, you feel like you're at your absolute limit. As long as you feel that it's super hard and you're at the absolute limit, you're definitely not on the limit. So only understanding that will give you a certain peace of mind and calmness to be much more, at peace and down to earth. And that control will already use less oxygen. So only with that you will extend the breath hold when you're under. And then how to control it? Well, first to learn how to do it when it's easier. So with some specific freediving practices, like your 5 minute breath hold, for example, to learn that this is okay and learn how it works, and then make it under more and more stressful conditions. So with higher and higher CO2, so that you're basically learning to cope with CO2. And you can do that on dry with CO2 tables are good. And you can do them also with like dynamic CO2 tables. You can do walking apneas. And then you can do short breaks, longer breaks. You can create oxygen depths, like do swimming or burpees or running or something like that, and then hold your breath. That's extremely hard. But you start slowly and you build a table, and then you start getting more and more comfortable with something like that. And my goal is always to create so stressful situation in training that is never going to be so stressful in an actual event. And then you actually feel good at an event because you know that your body is ready for this. So when you learn that, like, even after a workout, you can jump in a pool and completely compose yourself and you're fine. You can swim slowly underwater for 1 minute. Next time you get wiped out, you know that, like, okay, I have like a reservoir, and I'm good. I'm fine. I'm gonna navigate my way out, and already that mindset will buy you some time. And then also practicing this at different lung levels, with packed lungs, with reverse packed lungs, with semi half lungs, with full lungs, with empty lungs. This is also important because you will learn how the blood shift works and the distribution of blood. You will know how it feels. So when it happens down there, you will not freak out because you'll have a feeling something uncomfortable and wrong is happening. You will understand, okay, this is actually good that it's happening, because this will again give me a better window of survival. It's going to buy time for me because I'm going to have more blood for the brain. So just in the beginning, just getting exposed to these different feelings and different physiological processes, understanding what they are, is going to give you a peace of mind, and it's going to give you an understanding that, like, you have 1 minute in you for sure. And that's going to work. And then if you want to progress on that, then you just dial up those exercises and tweak them, scale them higher and higher and higher. And progression is actually fast. Like with everything, you start doing something, and in the beginning, the progression curve is the steepest.
Yeah, we've been me and my good friend Tommy Sullivan. We've been like doing some stuff on the assault bike, which is really challenging as well. Like on some empty breaths, and is it true that when you start to get those first convulsions, the swallowing convulsions, that's really like you still have so much oxygen left? Like, because a lot of people think that as soon as that, I think that's the first panic moment for a lot of people, right? They start to feel that it's super uncomfortable, and then they freak out and come to the water. But, like I've heard from multiple people that like you still may have like 30 to 40% of your breath hold left in you once those convulsions start. Can you what percentage is that?
I mean, I wouldn't like anyone to like hold my word and then,
No.
start
Yeah.
calculating and get in trouble. But it's going to be depending on body type and what's your body type. That's one thing. And then normally I would say you're not even at your 50% when that
Wow.
starts happening. Also,
Okay.
it depends on the intensity of something that you're doing. But coping with that and being resistant to that is also going to be directly linked to your muscle type and body type, but also how you train. So if you are doing a lot of anaerobic exercises, the more anaerobic it is, the better for you. You're going to tolerate it better. You're going to have a higher anaerobic capacity than if you're a very aerobic person training only aerobics and things like that. So that's also something to think about long term. That's not going to create like immediate changes, but if you do this over a course of a year or 2 years, your body will start changing, and so will all your systems, and this will help as well. But yeah, convulsions, we call them contractions.
Contractions.
Um,
Yeah.
they can be diaphragmatic or from intercostals or any chest muscles. Yeah, normally they will happen, let's say around 35% of your breath hold. So for me, around 4 minutes, I'm going to start having them if I'm going on a 10-minute plus breath hold, for example.
Yeah. And then what about it's incredible that to be able to feel that bad, that you still have so much that you have so much left in you. Man,
It's hard.
it's a real it's such a mental game. That's what I love about it. It's just that like I was watching the video of your world record, and the just the mental noise and the that you must have been going through is just incredible to be able to push through that. But is there a, seems like sometimes with me too, like it gets to a point where I would say it nearly gets easier. You go through a stage of where it's
Yeah.
you're like I can't hold my breath any longer, and then all of a sudden there's a nearly like a calmness and a release of that chest that you're like, oh, okay, I just got through this like gnarly section, but now I'm actually feeling calm again, and I'm feeling like good again. So, is that something that is normal in this sport?
Yeah, for sure. It depends a lot on how mentally you navigate all that you're doing. The record that I did, I assume you're talking about the 29-minute record, the oxygen record.
Yes.
That one's that one's really extreme in my opinion because it's very unnatural. Everything else that I do, breath holding, I do in a normal, natural environment, breathing air, and and then the worst thing that can happen, you can just black out. You're becoming hypoxic, and actually, the more hypoxic you are, the easier it becomes because that's the way our bodies work, and your brain is going to start shutting down everything you don't need. So that emotional part, like feeling uncomfortable, you don't need that in order to survive. So you're gonna be only left with energy to sustain your final thought or to sustain your life for whenever you can do it. So everything's gonna start shutting down slowly, everything that you don't need, and then the worst case, you're gonna black out, and you come out from a blackout super easy after a couple of seconds, and that's it. It's not nearly as dangerous as a potential drowning in windsurfing could be. So everything is like a quick fix, but holding your breath on oxygen is a completely different story.
Yeah,
So
I would like to. I'd like to check into that. So let's talk about your 29-minute record. Was if you go and watch the video, you've got your oxygen in the tank. You're breathing it. Now, what? How much? Like how much oxygen? How long are you breathing it? And like tell the viewers that probably don't understand because a 10-minute world record for say or 11-minute for a static breath hold with just your own breathe up and then you're able to go 29 minutes with in taking pure oxygen. I mean, it's a crazy number to think that I don't care how much oxygen you suck in. To think that you can hold your breath for 29 minutes is like some David Blaine stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like it's crazy.
it is. Actually, David Blaine was one of the record holders. He did 18 minutes in that discipline.
Wow. So yeah, so tell the audience like what how long was it? Let's go through. I'd love to go through the world record, right? Because I think the video shows it really good. Like let's go through those 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, because I'd love to get your thoughts on what each 5 minutes was feeling like for you and what you were going through mentally.
So let's say normally a free dive, I always say to myself from a mental perspective, I'm always ready to have a horrible experience because then everything not horrible is better than my expectations. And I always say to myself, well, I mean, how hard can it be? You're going to be in a dive like maximum 5 minutes. If it's a static breath hold, let's say maximum 10 minutes, but then it's much easier because it's much more gradual, everything that's happening. And if you're in a good headspace, for me, it's really not so uncomfortable. I can really distance myself from my emotions and everything that's happening. And I just observe and monitor everything like from a subconscious perspective, like a control panel, and I'm just adjusting things. Um, However, being on oxygen, it allows you, the rules allow you to breathe up oxygen up to 30 minutes before. However, this will also generate more CO2 and will elevate your basal metabolism. So my experience was that I was just breathing it 10 minutes before. It's not really about supercharging or super saturating your blood or anything like that. You cannot really go much more than what you have already with normal breathing. We all have saturation close to 100. So the oxygen is not going to bring so much to the body, but you will have your lungs filled with 100% oxygen when you take the final inhale, as opposed to now when in the air we have 20% oxygen. So that's a difference that creates the bigger hold. But also with a bigger hold, first of all, the bigger is the CO2, which is the real trouble, the real, like, being low on oxygen is absolutely not a problem. Mentally, emotionally, not having enough oxygen feels great. It's not a problem to be hypoxic. However, being hypercapnic with high CO2, that's horrible. That's what creates contractions. That's what creates everything negative comes from that. And now on oxygen, you can, without blacking out, because you still have oxygen, you can sustain much more of that CO2. So you're going to the top of your limit of CO2 that you would normally have, let's say for me, 10 minutes, but then I'm going beyond that. So it's going to get even worse. It's going to get even worse and worse and worse. And it's just going to keep getting worse. And the suffering will never stop. And that's basically holding your breath on oxygen, because I'm never going to get hypoxic enough so that I start forgetting how bad it is. I really need to mentally struggle against that. And a second thing is that it's risky, in my opinion. All the other breath holds are quite safe. It's a very, very safe sport if you know what you're doing. But holding oxygen is not safe, because no one really knows potentially what will happen if I do black out. Is it going to be because of hypoxia or CO2? And if it's because of CO2, intoxication with CO2, like, it's not good. Everything is ugly. Like, it's death, stupor, coma, cardiac arrest, respiratory arrest. Nothing is good that comes from that. So also the way your body reacts and moves, it's freaky. It's scary. You don't want to go there. So whenever it happens, I'm always kind of questioning my choices, and I really try to be far on the safe side when I'm doing things like that. Which is not easy, because monitoring these CO2 levels is really hard. I do my best. I'm very introspective. I've learned to read my blood pressure, my heart rate, all my muscle relaxation status, and I'm really good at reading what's happening in my body. But especially when you're under such stress, reading your CO2 levels and understanding, like, where is the danger zone is really not easy. So that's another factor that's, when something is unknown, you have a certain fear and discomfort about it just because it's unknown. So for me, it was probably the hardest dive that I've ever done, holding on oxygen, because you cannot really train and prepare for it enough. At least I didn't. I have to say I probably underestimated a little bit, and it was generally a stressful project. I did a very strong training, a 26 breath hold the day before. Probably I didn't recover enough. It was so many people, reporters, everything in the whole event, and it was a little bit stressful, and my mind was not in a place like it's normally. So yeah, the first 5 minutes was a breeze, like always. And then, let's say, between 5 and 10 minutes, I already started having contractions. And then it became really hard, especially mentally, because it's just not easy sometimes to turn off your mind, and you're thinking, oh my God, 12 minutes, like I'm not even halfway there, and I'm already feeling worse than I've ever felt before. It's horrible. Like, I already started planning, like, okay, I'm probably not going to be able to do it. Like, how do I justify it? Well, I don't have to justify it. It's an attempt. I don't have to, like, do every record on the planet. And then always I say to myself, all you have to do is do your best. Like, that's your job as an athlete. No one can, order records. But what we do as sport people, we do our best. And I just said to myself, okay, if you can do it for another 10 seconds, 20 seconds, then do it. And then discuss with yourself, like, what to do next. And then I was going 10 by 10 seconds, and I was sequencing time into smaller portions. It's one of the techniques that I sometimes do with athletes on how to struggle through difficult moments in the race or in a situation or in a training. And somehow, minute per minute, I managed to come to 20 minutes. Then it became easier mentally. It was still horrible, like, in my body, but mentally it was easier, because I was like, okay, I've done the biggest portion of it. So now it's like these couple of minutes, maybe it's doable. Maybe I can do it. And then approaching the record, like 23, 24, I was like, okay, I can definitely do it. I can definitely sustain it for a little bit more. And then when I passed it was just a relief knowing that, okay, from now on, everything is a bonus. I'm just going to try and push as much as I can because I definitely never want to do this again. And then I pushed as much as I can. Then when I start feeling that I'm losing control and that I'm not 100% fully in control, I was scared that it could get risky, and then I decided to bail out. At one point, I thought I would go for 30 minutes, but I also said to myself, like, first moment of like non-control or something that you're not like sure what you're reading, that's dangerous to go out, and we finished right there. And it was stressful. It was taxing. I remember my intestine was bleeding. I had more than 300 something contractions during the whole process. So my body was really worn out. I had like an insane headache, brain edema. It was like pretty crazy.
Yeah, definitely a one-time deal.
Well, I said that then because it was close, but then since it became a really big news, and I actually started thinking a lot, and it taught me a lot. I've learned a lot from that, and now I'm actually considering maybe to create another attempt to push beyond 30 because I'm sure with the lessons learned here, I have the capacity to pass 30.
If you had come up, well, I saw the video on YouTube. If you had come up and passed out, is that a fail? Do you have to be coherent? Like what's the, because I know on a lot of the other, the deep dives and stuff, there's a protocol, right? You come up, you got to say you're okay, and there's a bunch of different things you've got to do in a sequential order to make sure that you're, to get the record. What was that like for you as well, or?
Yeah, it's practically the same. Yeah.
Yeah, practically the same. So what is your like what is the, if you could tell someone like myself or people that are just getting, like, when you start to get that mental, the contractions and all that stuff, like, is there a little thing you tell everyone, like, is it like to get through that, is it to sort of get your mind away from it, is it like counting backwards, or is it trying to think about something like your kids or something, like what is it that you do that sort of gets you through those really, really tough moments?
That there is many techniques that can be used, and then the more of them you have, the better you will adapt, the more flexible you will be, and you will know how to use the right one at the right moment. But a general one that I'm using in most of my dives, and actually a lot in sports, is a defocusing technique when I'm trying to not be focused on anything. So I'm aware of everything, but I'm not focused on anything. And this creates, if practiced properly, it creates an emotional detachment from things. So you're not judging things, you're not feeling bad about things, you're not burdened by the pain of things or things like that. To make it, let's say, a little bit clearer, sometimes you can look at something, you can see things, but you don't have to look at them. Like, you can see with your peripheral vision, you don't have to be focused on something. While you're driving, you're still going to see the signs, but it's not like you're going to look at them and turn your head around them as you're driving by. You're just going to have awareness of the sign passing, and you're going to know the light without ever looking at the traffic light. You can be having a conversation in the car and still driving pretty well, because it's not like you need to be actively focused on that. That's like a subconscious layer of focus. And this is where you want to be. This is where you're most efficient, and this is where the body operates the best. In order to be at that level, you do need to practice that specifically, and you do need to practice your skill specifically. So, as a surfer, if you want to get really good at that and like be on this autopilot mode, be in your flow, be in your zone, it's not going to happen on your second day surfing. You will really need to have enough of these motorical skills and patterns already built in your subconscious mind so that you can drive on them. But also, if you want to apply this, you need to then apply also the mental training part of it. For most people, that's something they don't want to, or they don't understand. It's very evident that if I tell you about squatting 200 kilos, or you watch a YouTube video of a guy that squats 200 kilos, is not really going to happen. You have to go to the gym, and you're going to probably have to spend years in the gym in order to squat 200 kilos at the end. And it's the same with mental training and mental approach. It's not going to happen overnight. You do need to, it's a little bit faster for sure, but you do need to invest in it. You do need to take it as a proper training, and you need to work on that.
Yeah. And what's a training block for you look like when you were training for this world record? Like, how long did you take to prepare, and what did a training week look like for you, like on and off the water?
It was very different depending on the period. I took 9 months for this record to prepare for it, and 6 months was about 6 months was training on normal breath hold without oxygen, and then the last months were focused more on oxygen. But we cannot disregard that, like, I was a really high performer in freediving already in the last 9 years. So that definitely plays a role. I've never really trained static, but my static was close to 9 minutes already before, and it was my least favorite discipline. And also we cannot, like, forget the 20 years of sport career before that, before freediving. So definitely everything did play a role in the way my body is adapted to stress, and how I managed to put things together. But yeah,
What's it?
specifically for the record, it was around 9 months.
Yeah, and can you like do those like really long breath holds like back to back, day after day, day after day? Like, is that, or you have to take time? I'm imagining your body just can't handle so much of that stuff. Like, you'd have to work out a good like rest and recovery plan in between those big
For sure,
holds,
yeah.
right?
I think for me that was one of the biggest problems why that day it was so hard, because I did another one just the day before. I didn't have time to space out. I wanted to be sure that I can do it, so I kind of did the general rehearsal. Um, I think a little bit is definitely depending on the person. If you are more anaerobical, I think you will need more recovery. If you're more aerobical, you'll probably manage to do it like more consecutively. Me, I'm very anaerobical, very explosive, and for me, all those high performances have a huge demand on my central nervous system. I feel it, so I do need rest between them in order to be like good or better on the next attempt. Specifically for this, I remember that it took me 2 weeks to feel like I'm normal again. I
Mm.
definitely felt some strange layer of, I don't know how to say it, a little bit nervous, a little bit demotivated, a little bit deconcentrated. I felt a little bit strange, like for about 2 weeks after.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, man. That's a tough. Your body is just going through so much stress that it must be incredible. But so also you do a lot of work with Sea Shepherd. I see they're one of you. Looks like they're one of your sponsors, and you're right into the conservation side of things. Can you tell me a little bit more about your relationship with Sea Shepherd?
I'm just trying to help, like whenever I get a chance to have some exposure and to make myself heard and seen. I always try to use part of that for some greater good and for some cause and message that I think it's important to put out there. So in the sea of organizations that are trying to help the planet in this or that way, I somehow I through research and through experience, I found Sea Shepherd to be most credible one, and something where like my own principles are most aligned with. So I support their actions, their activities, and I always try to create this awareness on what's happening and help raise funds. And like currently there is a big petition going on for the Faroe Islands to stop the whale slaughter that's happening. Like, I don't know, in the last year it happened 15 times. So it's an incredibly brutal tradition that we cannot stop it by force. So there's been
Mm.
teams there for a year, and now it's in the European Parliament, and hopefully now we will manage to get enough awareness to stop this brutal massacres. Um, and there's always something, like there's the Arctic campaign to stop the krill being pulled out of the South Pole, and there's always something there. The sea is also something that I see as in most danger. I understand there is a huge problem with the food industry, with the forests, with everything, but the way we are depleting the sea and destroying the biomass with fishing, with bycatch, with legal and illegal fishing, it's just insane. It's dropping down so rapidly, and no one's really caring so much. I do believe that the sea is such a big part of the planet and producing most of the oxygen and creating the atmosphere that we breathe. If we ruin that ecosystem, it's not going to be important anymore about the forests or any other animal. It's just like the whole planet will dramatically change. So I see this as the most immediate threat, and this is why I always try to push the Sea Shepherd and that agenda to my followers and to people watching, kind of to use that voice that I have for something for the planet.
Yeah, and you obviously dive and swim and see beautiful oceans all around the world. Like, are you specifically going back to places year after year and seeing a huge difference in like the amount of fish and the quality of water and stuff like that?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I see from the Mediterranean is the most overfished sea in the world, probably, and like in my home sea, the Adriatic Sea, it's a huge difference. It's a desert. It's no longer a living organism like it was. But I think this is everywhere. I think we will, when you see the numbers, like when you see that we're speaking about hundreds of thousands of shark being fished for a soup that's like a cosmetical soup or something like that. It's really ridiculous, and we're really taking for granted the ocean that's around us. I think anyone who I have a lot of people I know that are in the fishing industry, and all of them understand and see that the catch is not like it used to be.
Mm.
It's sad that the fix for this is very easy. Like the sea can be rebuilt, reborn, and restored so quickly if we just protect some areas, and then everything will just blossom again. And
Flourish again, yeah.
I think it's possible to make everyone happy, but we need to make that step. We need to create like these protection zones for the most vital areas. Um, it's just insane how obvious it is from one side and how it's not happening from the other side. But hopefully we will see it, and soon we will have the oceans back like they were.
Yeah, that's well, good job, awesome job on that. That is, I think everyone that sees what Sea Shepherd does is super impressed with their ability and their aggression sometimes to get in there and get the job done. It's pretty awesome. So, and I want to move on to some technology stuff. You've been pretty innovative with some like approaches to underwater exploration. Can you tell me about that sort of stuff and where's that taken you?
Which exactly? What are we speaking about?
Well, is there a project that you're like most excited about, like with any like upcoming technologies or anything that's going to help with the free diving?
Uh, I mean, yeah, there's constantly a bunch of projects. I'm hoping that now in the future, first of all, we see more and more DCI cases and arterial gas embolism, intracranial gas embolism in freediving, and I think these are some of the dangers for the upcoming generations of freedivers, because people are going deeper and deeper, and we are not really ready and knowledgeable enough to explore this, and we don't have enough data. So one of my next projects is to collect this data and to develop and standardize ways of examining freedivers to understand who is at more risk or at less risk, or at least to see if what we think is risk has an actual correlation with the number of incidents that we see every year increasing. So that's going to be something that I see as important for the future. Also, some different types of safety systems that are hopefully going to make things safer for the generations to come. hopefully even something that's gonna bring more visibility, like let's say a specific types of tournaments that are a little bit outside of the current rules that will allow people to get more interested in the sport.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have visibility, the growth is going to be very, very slow, if not impossible, because visibility is what drives athletes, what drives sports, what brings people to the sport, what brings sponsors, brings money, so that athletes can actually focus on being athletes and performing and not thinking about a trillion other things. So yeah, there's things in that direction, like some gear, some examinations, some safety standards and protocols. We'll see what is to be done. Most of the scientific parts that I'm working on are, for me as an athlete, frustrating slow, because that's just how science works. You know, you need time for field tests, then you need time for statistics around it, then you need time for publications. Then according to those publications, you can then maybe you can, address some improvements and like implement something for real. Um, so yeah, for me, it's just frustrating slow. I just want to see things done and then move on. But it is how it is, I guess. That is the world, and I think we are going somewhere with slow steps. We're not even close to surfing. Like I'm super impressed how surfing is evolving, and it's like a monster sport, and it's so pure and unique, and I just enjoy watching it. I wish I knew to do it better, and uh, if I knew how to do it better, probably I wouldn't be free diving.
Come to Hawaii. We'll hook you up. You'll be good.
Yeah, for sure. If I come over, I will let you know. I would absolutely love to learn it better. I'm gonna go to Guatemala actually in 2 weeks and check out some of the beaches and the surf there as well.
Nice. What's here's something I just thought about. Is there an age group that generally, will perform better in the freediving world? Like, like young kids, are they developed enough? Like, or is it like in your 20s or some old, like, where's that fine, like, age group that's like probably at the peak performance? What age group is that?
Currently, uh, currently again, because it's such a small sport, it's a really really wide age group. There's people that are like I was coaching a guy that was 78 and he was diving 96 meters deep. So
Wow.
that gives you a perspective on like what kind of longevity you can expect in freediving with something that is still considered today like a high performance. Also, we have really young people under 2020 that are really high performing. So it's a huge gap. I believe in the future, if the sport develops like all other sports, where you have actually clubs with kids that are learning and progress, I think 25 to 30 is going to be like a sweet spot, because it's one of those sports where it's going to take some kind of mental maturity to actually perform at the highest level. And I think it's good also when the body is fully formed to perform. But we will see what happens. I believe age will play a role, like in every modern sport, but currently it doesn't play a huge role.
Yeah.
It plays, in what sense of like, if you want to progress in any motorical skill, like you want to upgrade your power, your speed, anything, when you're young, you can do that super fast. Like, you will adapt super fast. When you're older, you're going to need more time. But for freediving purposes, eventually you will get there as well.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, I got just a few more questions for you and I'll let you go. So, what do you think to date is your most memorable experience in the ocean, in the water?
Um, it will definitely be but there's definitely some dives that were just perfect, like I'm sure you also have some waves where just
Yeah.
everything was just a line. It was
Flow,
just,
the flow state.
yeah, everything was just amazingly perfect, and it's just like, God has given you this opportunity to enjoy it. So there were some dives like that. There were also some animal encounters. Um, but this year, actually, I had two of them that were incredibly special for me. One of them was swimming with like there was pods of whales going around, but at one point I went down with one of them, and normally they like break off and they're a little bit interested, but then they go away. But this one was like being next to me for, I don't know, 50 meters, and we came like super close to each other, maybe 1 meter, and I was on his eye, and he was looking at me, and I was looking at him,
Wow.
and it was very clear that he is interested in me and vice versa, and he doesn't have any intention of breaking off and going away. Like he wasn't even speeding up. He was keeping my speed in order to be close, and it was just like that was a special moment. And another one was like I said, in Adriatic, it's extremely rare to see any fish now, especially big fish. And I've never in my life seen a giant manta in Adriatic. They're very, very, very rare. It happened during one of our training camps in the South Adriatic that we were already on the boat preparing, and I saw a fin. It looked like a dorsal fin, like a huge shark was going around us. And I got super excited. I thought, oh my God, like it's so rare to see a shark in Adriatic. Like this is a special day. I put immediately my mask on and I jumped, and I was hoping, I assumed that I will scare him, but I was hoping that at least I will see which kind of shark is it.
Yeah.
And I jumped in front, and it was not a shark. It was a huge, huge manta. It just stood there in front of me and didn't get scared. And I was like, this is insane. This is like, am I tripping or what? Like, first, what are you doing here? And second, why are you not running away? And then I even said everyone from the board, like, hey, guys, jump in. Like, this is an extremely, extremely rare thing to see here. And everyone came in, and she was playing with us for another minute or two. And it's just one of those things like, how and why? And it's just so special. You feel so enriched and blessed that you were able to witness that. And that creature kind of gave you a little bit of time and attention, and you exchanged something there in the ocean.
Yeah, that's cool. And then I know you've broken the world record and you're probably looking to break another one, but is there anything that you still haven't achieved that you like a big term, long-term goal or something that you're still chasing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I have a long list of goals.
A long list of them, I can imagine. Yeah.
I have some climbs I really want to do. I really want to progress at surfing. That's not a joke. Like I really love seeing that sport, and I need to allocate more time to actually do it. I want to do something with wind sports. I want to do some highlines. I want to do some records with skydiving. So yeah, I have a million things
Yeah.
that I really want to do. Some of them are freediving related. I'm gonna try and do the deepest dive in the world with a sled, probably in 2 years from now. It's like a long-term project. Maybe some short-term projects, some projects involving my team members as well, for those records for them. But yeah, I actually am hoping to try and find a balance between freediving and other sports,
Yeah.
because I'm really missing those other sports as well. And yeah, it's just like,
Find the balance.
yeah, absolutely. I need other sports. I need other outdoor sports. I'm probably a little bit addicted to movement and sport.
Yeah. Well, mate, it's been a pleasure chatting to you, and congratulations on everything, and good luck with everything that's in front of you. But for all the listeners, and where can they find you? Where they can check you out? What you're doing? Whereabouts?
Uh, Probably Instagram is something that's most updated. You can like check my name on Instagram, and yeah, everything that's happening kind of goes through Instagram, and then hopefully soon I will start posting something with YouTube as well, Facebook obviously. But yeah, I mean, whoever wants to get to me, I'm not so hard to get to, so
Yeah.
people get in contact, and then eventually we make it work.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you so much for being on Living in Liquid, and good luck with everything, man. I'm rooting for you, and I hope all your goals and dreams come true.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on the podcast, and good luck with everything. I hope to see you in Hawaii soon.
For sure. Let's go surf. Thanks for listening to Living in Liquid. I'm your host, Jamie Mitchell. This episode was produced by Stacey Piggott. Thank you to the Australian band The Drones for our epic intro music. Please don't forget to follow or subscribe. We'll see you next week.